over the suburbs to Manila now. How's it ever trying to frame?
It's a
clear picture of what happened.
Very warm welcome to Army Shakil 5858. I am Ahmed Shackle. Following are the latest news headlines which have been reported by American, European, Canadian, Asian, African and Australian news channels and all other news agencies. So please, let's go to the news.
Tonight, the flashing economic warning signs 100 days into the Trump presidency. The GDP shrinking, hiring down, and the roller coaster day for markets after stocks closed in the red for the month. The president asking the nation to be patient.
Maybe the children will have $2 instead of $30. And maybe the $2 will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally.
President Trump saying the U.S. has been ripped off by other countries and seeking to blame President Biden for the economy 100 days into his term, while Democrats blast his policies. The Columbia University student arrested after leading pro-Palestinian protests out on bail after a judge ordered his release inside the growing legal battle. The case a district attorney called hazing on steroids. 11 high school lacrosse players turned themselves in what they're accused of doing. The week of deadly storms with no end in sight. 4 people killed in Pennsylvania. Rescues in Oklahoma City from floodwaters, and where threats of hail, tornadoes, and floods are on the radar next. Church and state, a landmark Supreme Court case over whether a public religious charter school should be allowed, and why a Republican AG is fighting it. Laura Jarrett has the case. Legendary singer Michael Bolton shares his cancer diagnosis.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
I canceled my video.
Tonight, the breaking news as we come on the air, the deadly storm sweeping right into the east at this hour from Texas all the way up to New York. The home set on fire by lightning, a mother and her children inside. Drivers trapped under power lines. Also tonight, the horrific accident reportedly involving NFL legend John Elway and his friend who was killed. And breaking news right now involving Ukraine and a possible deal with the U.S. First tonight, the massive storm system from Texas to New York. At least 4 people have been killed. These powerful straight-line winds, gusting up to 100 miles per hour. Lightning setting that home on fire, the family inside. Those drivers trapped in their cars under power lines. And tonight, more than 50 million Americans in the path of new storms coming this evening. Also tonight, for the first time in 3 years, the American economy shrinking. The new numbers in tonight. Before President Trump took office, 33 straight months of economic growth. But tonight, President Trump is blaming Joe Biden, not his own tariffs, and the uncertainty now in the markets of the U.S. economy. And what President Trump said today about store shelves and toys. How many dolls might be available for children. Tonight, the horrific accident involving NFL legend John Elway, the Hall of Famer reportedly driving his golf cart when his longtime friend and agent was killed in a tragic accident, falling from the cart, hitting his head, and what police are now saying. Tonight, the chilling high school hazing scandal allegedly resembling an armed kidnapping. 11 students, most of them members of the boys' varsity lacrosse team, tonight surrendering to police after other players were taken into the woods. They thought they were being kidnapped at gunpoint. Tonight, dramatic testimony in the Karen Reed murder trial in Boston. Today, the key witness on the stand and what she said Karen Reed told police that night. Meantime, Karen Reed outside the courthouse late today and what she's now saying about that witness. Tonight, the NFL fining a team and the coach $350,000 after a prank call from the coach's son to college football star Shedeur Sanders during the NFL draft, giving him false hope. Tonight, you'll see the video of that prank call. Tonight, singer Michael Bolton breaking his silence about his battle with brain cancer, what he's now saying. And Barbra Streisand making news tonight after some of the most popular duets of all time. At 83, her big announcement tonight, and who's joining her now? From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World.
President Trump sparring with ABC News anchor Terry Moran on his best issue with voters, deportations. Things getting pretty heated over the ongoing case of alleged MS-13 gang member Kilmar Abrego Garcia. Watch it here.
You could get him back. There's a phone on this desk. I could. You went to court this morning to facilitate that. I'm not the one making this decision. We have lawyers that don't want... He had MS-13 on his knuckles tattoo.
Oh, he had some tattoos that are interpreted that way.
It says MS-13.
That was Photoshop.
You want me to show you the picture?
I'm not an expert.
Abrego Garcia is not the only immigration story the press is focused on. There are many, but Charlemagne the God blasting the media and accusing them of misleading the public over a report that the Trump administration is deporting children with cancer. Watch.
I do think when the media have that conversation, we can't rage bait, though. Because, every time they say it, they'll be like, oh, a 2-year-old got deported, a 3-year-old got deported, but they're not telling the whole story of their parent was here illegally, and so the parent got deported, and so they sent the child with them. Because when I hear it, I'm like, why the hell would they deport a 2-year-old? Why would they deport some child with cancer?
All right. Hey, Greg, just before we get your comments, this little gem came in from a congressman from Georgia. His name is Hank Johnson. Watch.
First, they came for the Latinos outside of the Home Depots, and I didn't say anything about it because I'm not a Latino at the Home Depot. Then they came for the Hispanic-looking folks wearing hats backward with tattoos. I didn't say anything about that because I don't wear my hair backward, and I don't have any tattoos, and I don't look like a Latino.
All right, Greg.
Then they came for the stupid congressman.
I was just thinking, I wish I was
so
sitting
much
next
better
to
with
you.
bongos, Dana. We need to put bongos under that.
Give me your thoughts.
Well, let's simplify it. The letters and the numbers are labels that translate the symbols on his knuckles. The reporter tried to say that the labels were the tattoo, an intentional deception to make you think he's a gang member. No, we know he's a gang member. Those numbers above aren't even the same typeface. Let me put it this way. Can you put us back in boxes for now, all of us boxes? Okay, people at home, we're not really in boxes. It's just a production thing. That label was added on as a translated. What the newscaster tried to do was make it sound like, oh my God, the whole thing was doctored.
New optimism about Canada-U.S. relations this Wednesday night.
He's a very nice gentleman.
What else the American president had to say about Canada's newly elected prime minister. And what will happen to the federal conservative leader.
He is still seen as the champion of conservative-friendly electors.
Plus, the tensions among those on the right.
The Conservative Party of Canada was very good at pushing people away.
New evidence. The video presented at the Hockey Canada sex assault trial. The Canadian teenager lifting so much more than her spirits. It's something that's really important to me. What she's hoping to gain next, after already setting a world record. Good evening and thanks for joining us. On his second day as Canada's newly elected Prime Minister, Mark Carney got an invitation to visit the White House. President Donald Trump revealed that when he was asked today about the phone call he and Prime Minister Carney had yesterday. Trump said Carney couldn't have been nicer.
We have a great relationship. He called me up yesterday. He said, let's make a deal. He's a very nice gentleman.
On the campaign trail, Carney repeatedly accused Trump of trying to break Canada in order to own it. Now, Carney's challenge will be to face Trump head on. Mackenzie Gray has our top story tonight.
Good evening, I'm Amna Navaz.
And I'm Jeff Bennett. On the NewsHour tonight, more than 100 days into his second term, President Trump doubles down on his economic and immigration policies that have sparked widespread pushback.
U.S. Supreme Court justices appear divided over whether to allow publicly funded religious schools in a case that's challenging the separation of church and state.
Plus, we speak with the former U.S. Attorney General about President Trump pushing the legal limits of his authority.
It takes a while to build up a cathedral like the rule of law. It doesn't take very long to destroy it.
Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
Palestinian health officials say Israeli attacks have killed at least 39 people across the Gaza Strip over the past 24 hours. That includes 3 massive strikes on residential buildings in the Nuseirat refugee camp that survivors described as feeling like an earthquake. Overnight, Israel continued attacks on tents and other shelters for displaced Palestinian civilians in Khan Yunis and Al-Mawasi. Survivors say bodies of their loved ones were left unrecognizable by the airstrikes in an area Israel had designated as a so-called safe zone.
Do you see the rockets that fell on us and on the children at home? They were sleeping. We were sleeping deeply, only to get us out of the house like that. And we started running with the children at midnight. It is unfair and fair world.
Israel's released a jailed Gaza paramedic who survived a deadly attack on medical workers last month. Assad al-Nasrallah was among at least 10 Palestinians released from an Israeli prison into Gaza Tuesday, all of them in poor physical and psychological health after they were...
From CBS News headquarters in New York, this is the CBS Evening News.
Good evening, I'm Maurice Dubois.
John Dickerson.
Usually we begin with something that happened.
But not tonight. Tonight we begin with something that didn't happen.
The economy didn't grow, not in the first quarter of this year. It shrank at an annual rate of 0.3%.
It's the first time in 3 years since COVID that the economy has receded, adding to the prospects of a recession.
Continuing with the economic report card, the good news is the threat of inflation is easing. Consumer prices rose at an annual rate of 2.3% in March, down from 2.7% the month before.
But that could change as the effects of the tariffs kick in, making products more expensive. As they tried to beat the price hikes, consumers increased their spending in March by a solid 0.7%.
And here to put it all in perspective for us is Kelly O'Grady. Kelly.
Yeah, there's a disconnect between where the economy stands and where it could be going. And we saw that in the report on gross domestic product, or GDP. GDP measures all the economic activity in the U.S. And last quarter, for the first time in 3 years, it shrank. Most analysts expected the...
Don't miss French Connections Plus on France 24, bien sûr.
Good morning, I'm Oliver Farry, and this is Daybreak. The United States and Ukraine signed a long-awaited deal that will give Washington privileged access to Ukrainian minerals. But Ukraine says it secured in last-minute changes key interests, including full sovereignty over its own rare earths. We'll be speaking to our correspondent Gulliver Cragg in Lviv. Sectarian violence continues in Syria with 3 days of clashes that have left 40 people dead. The latest came in the town of Sanaya between the country's Druze minority and armed Sunni groups. Meanwhile, Israel carries out an airstrike on Syria, it's said to prevent extremist groups from attacking the Druze. A Palestinian student targeted by the Trump administration for deportation is freed on bail. A Vermont judge ruled that Columbia University student Mohsen Madawi was not a threat to society or a flight risk. He had been singled out by the administration because of his pro-Palestinian activism. And also coming up, France 24 has been working with a consortium of 13 media outlets under the umbrella Forbidden Stories, the aim of which is to investigate the fates of journalists who have been killed or otherwise silenced and to continue their work. We'll be talking more about the project with Deep Laurent in today's press review.
This is Asia Now.
It's 12 p.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 9:30 New Delhi, and 11 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Rani Samtani. At this hour, the U.S. signs a landmark deal with Ukraine to jointly tap its mineral resources, a breakthrough Donald Trump says could fund Kyiv's recovery and bolster its defenses. India shuts its airspace to airlines from Pakistan as tensions soar over last week's terror attack in Kashmir. The U.S. reiterates calls for both sides to de-escalate the situation. It's the last campaigning for General 11 rallies will take place today before all campaigning activities stop from midnight. It's meant to give voters time to reflect on key issues before casting their ballot on Sunday. The U.S. and Ukraine have signed a long-awaited minerals deal gives Washington access to Kyiv's rare earths, something U.S. Donald Trump had as for the support Washington had given to Kyiv in its war against Russia. As
between you side. Also, just stunned with hundreds plus section in. It's Thursday, the 1st of May. Coming up, US and Ukraine sign a minerals deal seen as key for unlocking future military support from the White House.
Today's agreement signals clearly to Russian leadership that the Trump administration is committed to a peace process centered on a free, sovereign, and prosperous Ukraine.
What have you found?
Shetty would say it is.
Sky News joins police in Manchester tackling rising knife crime and hear how children as young as 11 are being detained.
I've been in just under 6 years now, and I'd say the last 2 years, people they just don't care anymore.
The first Gazan children to be treated in the UK since the conflict began arrive in London. Reports this morning that Tesla board members are searching for a new CEO to replace Elon Musk. And in sport, Chelsea have won a 6th Women's Super League title in a row. Good morning, everyone. Great to have your company this morning. Our top story: the United States and Ukraine have signed a long-anticipated natural resources.
Today, the coalition to release its policy costings 2 days out from Election Day. The estranged husband of Erin Patterson gives evidence in her triple murder trial. US and Ukraine sign a deal giving Washington access to Kyiv's mineral resources. And artist Abdullah awarded the 2025 Archibald Packing Room Prize for his portrait of friend and fellow artist Jason Fu. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Ros Childs. The Prime Minister is in his final campaign blitz 2 days out from the federal election. Anthony Albanese has been visiting key seats in Western Australia and...
Africa News. The news. With much of eastern Sudan and the capital Khartoum under the control of government forces, tens of thousands of people driven from their homes by conflict are starting to return. Some 1.5 million Sudanese fled to Egypt during the war. From Cairo, they are now getting onto buses for the long trip back home. At first, there was a lack of travelers, but now we are facing difficulties because most people want to return through this way. It is better than the way elsewhere in Sudan.
The Swedish police arrested a man on Wednesday linked to the shooting that claimed the lives of 3 people and injured several others the previous night. The shooting took place on Tuesday night in Uppsala, a city near Stockholm. Police later launched a manhunt after the perpetrator fled the scene. According to the police, they have not yet identified the motive of the attack and further indicated that the incident was not an act of terrorism or a hate attack. However, according to the public broadcaster SVT, one of the deceased is a man who was under investigation for plotting an attack targeting a relative of gang leader Ismail Abdo. Sweden has grappled with gang violence for years with frequent shootings and bombings. The mass shooting on February 4, 2025 at a campus in Sweden profoundly impacted the immigrant community. The attacker, Richard Andersson, who is a 35-year-old Swedish national, killed 10 individuals before taking his own life. Most victims were immigrants striving to build new lives in Sweden.
5 women served.
The 6888, the only all-black, all-female unit to serve in Europe during World War II, has been awarded the Congressional Gold Medal. Known for clearing a staggering 17 million-piece mail backlog in record time, the 688th Battalion boosted morale for thousands of troops overseas. Nearly 80 years later, the heroism is finally being honoured. Only 2 of the 855 women who served are still living. Their story inspired a Netflix film and now a nation's recognition.
There you go. Meet Widad Betal, who is Morocco's newly crowned world boxing champion in the 52 to 54 kg division. She has been rigorously training with a thriving career as a multi-specialty nurse as she sets her sights on the 2028 Olympic Games. My first step was reaching the quarterfinals at the Olympic Paris Games. I aspired to win the gold medals, but even though I didn't win it, I didn't give up. I worked hard and achieved a gold medal at the World Championship, defeating an Olympic champion This is a great achievement, and I will continue to work hard to earn more titles. Betal, who also holds 2 African Championship titles, emphasized the positive impact of boxing on her life, and now she's striving to even win more medals for her country. My goal is to win a gold medal at the 2028 Olympic Games, and I will start preparing from now because there isn't much time left. Currently, I am training with the national team with coaches from Cuba, and we will have international preparation for the Olympic qualification competitions. This is to develop my level and ensure that I am fully prepared for the Olympic Games. In addition to her boxing achievements, Betal earned her nursing qualification in 2023 and is now navigating the demands of both professions at personal level. In addition to boxing, I graduated with a baccalaureate in 2019 and also became a multi-specialty nurse in 2023. Now I am trying to find time to train in nursing for future work. I am trying to balance this with boxing, especially since the sport consumes most of my time, but I will try to manage both. Supported by her parents Fatima El Buhari and Mohamed Betal, she is currently training with the national team and Cuban coaches with international preparation plan for Olympic qualifiers.
Thank you very much for giving time to Amir Shackle 5858. I am Amir Shackle. Have a good life. Bye-bye.